Miracles Friday morning group. And I'm excited to announce that today Irene Tomkinson is in the house and she'll be teaching. I know, right? Woohoo! And I'm just going to be doing a few announcements and just giving my brief overview of what A Course in Miracles is and why we come together. And then we'll do a reading and meet and greet, and then we'll just get started. And so we really are so grateful, Bill and I and the Teachers of God Foundation, to be able to have this space here at Unity on the River and offer these classes every week, because we really felt that it's about direct experience. So A Course in Miracles is a systematic way to know yourself. It's a way to a different perception of everyone and everything in the world. And it gives 365 daily lessons that you do one lesson at a time. And it brings you from the belief of yourself as a body separate from other bodies within to knowing yourself as light, as love, as self, as spirit, one with everyone, one with God, one with yourself. So it's a complete reversal of the way we live our lives here in the world. Like, we live our lives separate from other people. And we think we have to struggle and effort, and we come up with all these rules for ourselves to keep ourselves safe. And so I love A Course in Miracles. It's absolutely changed my life. And Bill and I really wanted a space where this would be experiential. That's what we always wanted. We didn't want a place where we would talk about these ideas. We wanted a place for applying and using these ideas and activating them in others, and to have the community. And so that's what this Friday morning group is. And one of the things that we really got clear about from the very beginning was that we wanted to invite others to step into this teaching role, because that's the way you learn it, right? Everybody who's taught, Nancy, thank you for the way, I get emails about you, by the way, Nancy Fitzgerald, she's awesome. And people on the live stream, welcome from around the world, are listening to these different teachers that come here every Friday. And what I love is that different people hear it in different ways, and we need every voice. We need every single voice. And so, Irene has a way that's more playful and just fun. And Nancy's more science. And David's more centered in, I don't know what I would call yours is, but heart. Very heart-centered, very, bringing in some Bible stuff. Like, everyone had Laura's, more the addiction. It's like everyone has a particular way of expressing the transformation. And we receive the emails from people who watch it live stream. About 1,000 people watch this group every single week. And that's what we wanted. We really wanted that this be a space of awakening. This be a space of joining. It be a space of celebration. It be a place of activation where people see a whole brand new possibility for themselves and for their life. And so I'm always saying, you don't have to suffer. I've been saying, I go back, look at my blogs that I started writing in 2004. It's like I'm a broken record. I'm just like, you don't have to suffer. You don't have to be sad. You don't have to be sick. But we go through these energy fields. And so A Course in Miracles is a systematic way to undo that thought system. So that's my opening speech of A Course in Miracles. And the announcements that we have, for those of you on the Teachers of God Foundation mailing list, you may not have noticed this, but what we decided to do is, instead of sending out a bunch of emails during the week, we're sending out one email every Wednesday with everything in it. So if you're on our mailing list, and I know how it is, I stop opening emails. So if you're watching or you're here and you're on our mailing list and you just feel overwhelmed by all the emails you get from everyone and from us, we're just giving one email a week now, every Wednesday, and it has the blog link on there, the teaching for Friday, the teacher, the different programs we're offering, who's in the presenter series. So I invite you to open that email every Wednesday or sign up on our mailing list at teachersofgod.org. And we have only 3 tickets left for Los Angeles. The Course in Miracle conference every year is going to be held in Los Angeles in May. We have 3 tickets left. Welcome. Are you guys the ones from Syracuse, New York? Yes. Welcome. I heard about you yesterday. Did you drive here this morning? Oh, good. Oh, I'm so glad. Isn't that awesome? People just drop from around wherever. So we have 3 tickets left at the $479 price. So if you want to come to Los Angeles and be in one space with about 500 people, it's an amazing event every year. And the tickets already are over $500. They go up to over $600, and this includes all your meals. So we have 3 tickets at $479. We every third Friday of the month from now on, we're not meeting here at Unity. So we're fourth Friday. Okay, so sorry. Every fourth Friday of the month. Now, make sure you check your calendar because the fourth Friday of the month doesn't necessarily mean the last Friday of the month. Okay, so that's why I got confused because last month it was one more week left in the month. So we're online, we're on Zoom, and I didn't think I was going to like it. I really thought I do not want to leave this physical space once a month. I just thought we got to be here in the physical space every Friday. But Bill Free had this idea because, like I said, we have 1,000 people online, and we wanted to meet them. We thought, yeah, we want to see them. Who was there? I know you were there. You were there. It was awesome. There was 125 people online live. And what we're doing is we're opening up spots for people online to take 10-minute teaching spots because that's what we want to do here. We want to activate people to share themselves and their journey for their process that they're using in awakening. So we have one open spot for this upcoming one, the fourth Friday of the month. So if you're interested in that, email us at info@teachersofgod.org. And the presenter series, amazing community for the Teachers of God Foundation and A Course in Miracles. The card is open all month. 40-day program group launch is October 1st, and you can share that with a friend. And we have 2 more announcements. A free gift exchange with our mailing list mentioned in the newsletter. And so I'm not entirely sure how that works.
They can contact info@teachersofgod.org and get a full explanation.
Okay, so contact info@teachersofgod.org for the free gift exchange. And we also have a new calendar that lists all of the events under the events page. So I just wanted to alert you to that. So if we can all rise, we have a meet and greet, and we just greet each other in love. Love you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Okay, welcome back. So I have just one more announcement that I just remembered. I'm teaching next Friday. So I'm teaching, I have a blog post coming out next Friday, and the topic is called I Requested This. So my teaching next Friday is on that topic. I requested this. So every single thing that seems to be happening to you in your life, sickness, problems, natural catastrophes, accidents, the President of the United States, whatever, you requested it because you want to wake up. You wanted to know yourself as whole and perfect, and you want to wake up. And so every single thing is a gift. It is. And as long as you're trying to fix it, change it, understand it, question it, make it go away, you miss the lesson that it has come to teach you. And so that's going to be next Friday. So you guys watching online, there's a Marriott Hotel right down the road. You still have time to book a plane ticket. Come on in. We'll fill this room with chairs. So I'm very excited to introduce our next speaker, Irene Tomkinson. She is a total demonstration of Christ consciousness and the joy and happiness and playfulness that really comes when you're connected, and you are the embodiment of agelessness. Pardon? Oh, so sorry. Yes. Before we get to you, pause you for a moment. Okay, we have somebody new in the house, and I'm so sorry. And this is Jean, and Jean is Laura Power's sister, and she's going to come and read the Cafe Gratitude book for us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Okay, we're going to read this without my glasses. Each individual is master in his own and her destiny. It is up to each person to create the costs of happiness. Read the whole thing.
Well, what does that mean?
I don't think you can find happiness in other people. You have to find it in yourself first. I've been working on myself for the past 18 months because I actually am a survivor of cancer. And so each day that I wake up, it's a brand new day. I look at it with brand new eyes. I try to be kinder. I work in hospice, so I deal with people having to lose people every day. And so to me, that's rewarding to be able to be there for them and help them. So each day that you wake up, it's a new day. So you have to grasp that and see what it brings you. To me. How could you more fully live your passion? Well, I live every day and see what happens along the way. I don't look and see a plan or anything else because we're only in the moment right here. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my God, I love that. Now you see, that's a demonstration. A survivor of cancer. Is she sick? Do you guys see sickness there? That's it. Like, you really recognize that you make a choice. Every day is a decision and a choice to how you're going to show up. And that's the mind training. So thank you so much, Jean. And so it is with great pleasure that I introduce Irene Tomkinson. She is teaching today on surrender versus collapse. Welcome, Irene.
I got it. I'm here. Am I on? Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay.
You're really on.
Yes, you definitely are on.
That's wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up.
That's wake up.
So strong,
it's blasting.
Look at Irene's energy.
Woo! Okay, so I too am I'm a breast cancer survivor, so I get it, and that was something that was an old story. And one of the things that my husband said to me when we were going through that, he said, "This is so not you, Irene." And I was like, it's not. You know, breast cancer was so not me. And I was blessed because I knew it came as a teacher. It was a wonderful teaching. And so that story's over. But I can tell you what one of the hardest parts was, and I'm sure that there are people out there who can recognize this, was fear. The fear that would just grip me by the throat sometimes, you know. And even though no, I want that up so my behind doesn't look so big. I want you all to know it's not me, it's a microphone. Because I'll look at this on tape and I'll go like, oh my God, Irene. Anyway, I'll write another story, okay? But anyway, I knew it was a teacher, and I opened up to the teaching, and the teaching was profound. It was life-changing, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And that's the end of that story. So Bill asked me to speak, and I love doing it, but I was telling him earlier, I go through the same process every time. I want it to be guided, so I open up the book at random and I say, okay, Jesus, angels, show me what I'm supposed to talk about. So I open it up, and this happens every time. And I look and I go, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Are you sure you want me to talk about that? And then I start having this fight with the angels for the whole week. Like, oh, really? I don't know. And then I get what it is I'm supposed to learn, right? Because it's all about, you teach what it is you need to learn. It never, ever, ever fails. Anyway, so I opened it up, and it was a cameo, and I love these cameos in the back of the purple book. I love them. I feel like I'm getting the inside story. And it opened up to the return of his will. It was cameo 22. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, obviously, but it's about depression. We know that Bill was experiencing depression around this time from a journal he kept during August and September of 1996. So Bill Thetford was the partner with Helen Schuckman, who transcribed the course. Though Bill is aware of feeling depressed, it is easy for us to imagine him being surprised at how Jesus, through Helen, explains that depression. Here's what Jesus says, speaking to Helen about Bill. He's in a very deep sleep and much more resistant to waking than you are. He's talking to her. The major problem with him is that his is a passive resistance, which implies a giving over of will. This always induces a state of resignation and therefore depression. Tell him that no one can resign from the sonship, since membership is not optional. He has been looking for someone to take his will away. He thought it was the cause of his trouble. Since the Course has placed such consistent emphasis on will, and since he agrees with the emphasis, his past adjustment is threatened. That is why he could not sleep. His past came to haunt him because he is giving up the belief in ghosts. Tell him again not to be afraid of ghosts and remind him that he has no past. The return of his will is what he wants. No one can accept it but himself. So whether you follow the Course in Miracles or you're on another path to owning who you are, to looking at yourself, we all know that we were given free will. Conservative Christians know that, Jews believe that, we believe that, people in recovery believe that. Will is something we were given. So what's that will all about? The words that come to mind for me, so one of the ways in which I discovered will, my will, was through the 12 steps of the recovery program. And it was a great path. The 12 steps were a great path for me to understand the difference between surrender and collapse. When I was a kid, I've said this before, I grew up in violence. And And the way we survived that violence was to deny it, to deny the effect it had on me. So I completely disconnected from myself, okay? I didn't know that. I didn't know that until years and years later. I picked up alcohol, and when it was time to let alcohol go, because alcohol was running the show when I didn't want it to, I realized that when I put the alcohol down, I was absolutely filled with terror. And that was a shock. It was a shock to me. You know, I was just so, my whole core believed, or my whole, not my core, my whole persona, my whole ego believed that I had no fear. And anybody who had fear had an attitude problem. But I was using booze to keep myself separate. It's called diversion. It was a way, you know, it's one form of denial. We're going to look at denial. So one form of denial was diversion. And that can be medication, that can be alcohol, that can be work, that can be other people's business, not mine, that can be shopping, that can be humor, that can be a zillion other things, but all outward focus. Outward focus, I didn't have to own the fear that I was completely filled with. The reason that's important, there's other forms of denial too. But anyway, so I put the alcohol down and I found I'm completely filled with terror. I didn't even know who the heck I was. Everything, it felt like my whole foundation had been taken out from under me, because I had built everything on that foundation. I'm going to show you over here. I probably should have done this one first, but the picture I get about the beginning is that, like, for me, for all of us, is like God, life force, prana, whatever you want to call it. To me, it's the light. It's like the sun. This is the visual that works for me. And each one of us is a ray of that sun. So here I am, a ray of this sun, right? And where that ray is in my core. It's in every one of my cells. It's the life energy, right? I'm a part of this. I'm not the whole of this. So obviously this is my interpretation. And that's what we've been invited to do, to give out our experience, strength, and hope, you know, our interpretation of this process. So the visual I get is that the life force in me is God. I am that, you know, like we talk about the drop in the ocean. Anyway, but what happens is, that's the very, very core. That's the tada that we all come on the planet with. But if my tada is covered with fear and terror because of what's happening in this illusion here, and just step aside a little bit. The way I see the illusion is a reality, but it's a temporary reality. It's the lesson, the schoolroom, the whatever we're playing in here in this time frame. For me, it's a temporary one. It's not going to last, but there's a lot I get to learn about it. As Deepak Chopra says, if you look at the body's like a printout. The mind is the computer. This is the printout. And this, if you look at the body, will tell you where the mind has been. If you look at the mind, you can see where the body's going. There's a lot to be learned about this. One of the big lessons I got from the breast cancer, Louise Hay, who talks about the emotional part of illness. I wasn't going to talk about this, but you reminded me. Who talks about the emotional part of illness. And it's not that you don't have to take care of it, okay? But the emotional side is that it's over-mothering. Well, isn't that a shocker? I've been a therapist and a codependent and all those labels, taking care of everybody else and doing the outward focus my whole life. So it made sense to me that the body was showing me, okay, it's time for you to look at you. What this denial does is it cuts us off from the light we are. You know, the diversion, outward focused, taking care of everybody else. I can tell you what's best for you. I can write a book that I hope will help you. I can teach a class that I hope will help you. But where am I? And when I was laying in recovery from the surgery, I got it so clearly. The room lit up for me. I got it so clearly. There was an angel there, and she said, this was a gentle reminder that you need to get focused on yourself, or you're going to be in a lot of trouble, because it'll be a 2x4 the next time. I got it. I just got it so clearly. And I know if I had told my doctor, they would have probably said it's the anesthesia. But I know what it was. I could feel the truth in me. Okay? So I get what you know, that I had been cut off for so long from myself. As a kid, the way I buried all that was taking care of my mother and my sisters. I knew how to do this. Everything outward focused, everything outward focused. Well, that light that is the middle of me, the core of me, the being of me, that was being disconnected, okay? And I'm going to give you the other kinds of denial, and then I'm going to go back to Bill Thetford and his depression, all right? So diversion is you're doing something outside of yourself to stay away from feeling self. Another form of denial is just no. It's called simple denial. And what that is, I'll give you the example, like somebody dies and you get that information, you go like, no way. You can feel your whole body just kind of push that information away from you. No, didn't happen. Well, that's nature's way of kind of softening the blow for us. Because if you have to take the whole ramifications of that loss in at one time, you'd become emotional roadkill. The problem is we hang on to it. We hang on to it because denial comes when we're getting confronted with something we don't want to see. So this is the way we work it out. You know, we push it away. Simple denial. A form of denial. I saw this. I had a really good friend. I wrote about her in my book, one of my books. Anyway, her name was Carrie, and she transitioned with cancer, right? And we were good friends. I sponsored her in the 12-step program. So I was talking to her a couple of days before she transitioned and said, Carrie, do you regret anything? And she said, oh, I regret everything. But what I know right now, because she kept seeing the other side, is none of it matters. None of it matters. Because it's love like you have no idea. I mean, I can't even explain it to you what this love is. And I've tiptoed into it, and I know that's where I'm going. Do you know what my first thought was when she said this to me? My first thought was, what do you mean it doesn't matter? You mean, I thought when you got to the other side, I was going to be told, and you were right about this, and you were right about that, and that was a good decision. You know, I could feel my whole ego said, you didn't find out you were right? Like you didn't vote the right way, you weren't in the right church, you weren't saying the right stuff. And I knew she was right. I knew she was right, but I could feel that struggle inside because I just wanted to get checked off. Like, yeah, you did your life okay. And it wasn't that she felt she didn't do her life okay. What she felt was, and what she tried to impress me with was, the stuff that you thought was so important didn't matter. It's very different than that. It's about being the love that you are. Not trying to get approval someplace else and getting checked off on a list that you did it okay. And I could so strongly feel the difference. For me, it's very physical. The difference between the ego, which is the personality, versus the core. Versus the core. I knew she was right, and I could feel the I wanted to know that God voted the way I vote, you know, that it was going to, you know, that I had the right answers. Anyway, so back to the denial thing. So diversion is one kind of denial. Simple denial is you just say no, you just completely disconnect from it. I just completely disconnect from the terror I had as a kid with the violence. It wasn't happening, didn't bother me. you know. And when you do denial, what happens is it's like you're doing your life with the handbrake on, because you're closing yourself off from your essence. You're closing yourself off from that light that you are. And in that light is all your potential, your possibility, your inspiration, all the ways in which you were brought here to manifest the God that you are. You become the God you think you're supposed to be. And you get all the false gods out in front of you. Another form is intellectualize. Intellectualize. Okay, I just personally, my interpretation, I think this is where Bill Thetford was. Let's talk about all this. Let's analyze the bejesus out of all this. Let's fuss over the words of this, but let's not experience this. Okay? You know, and we can get into that. Religion and philosophical discussions can get into that. I remember one of the biggest gifts that Bill and Lisa gave me when I first started coming to this group was, in particular, Lisa said it, and that was, you don't have to understand this book. You have to kind of feel this book. You have to be with this book. The Course in Miracles, with the concepts. Do they speak to your core? Do they speak to your gut? Are they? And it happened again and again. And when she gave me that permission to just be with it, to let it talk to my core, well, that's my light. That's my essence. So the argument would start. It was just like with the 12 steps. When I first got into the 12 steps, I had seen it work for other people. And I knew that what I was doing wasn't working. That was a huge admission for me to get out of the driver's seat, right? So I went to my first 12-step meeting, and I found out that they talked about surrendering to a higher power. They weren't going to tell you what the higher power was, but they wanted you to know there's more than you. And the you we're talking about is not the you, the light. It's you, the ego, Irene. You, the ego. You meant ego, Irene. How you did it. And I thought, are you kidding me? Because I was so angry with what I called God when I got there. I felt ripped off. Like, you're my answer. And now and because I had God and an old religion confused, I thought they were the same thing. And that began the surrender on my part. And the surrender on my part was, I knew, just as Lisa told me about looking at the Course in Miracles, I knew it was speaking to something in me that was my truth. Even though my ego was having a flipping temper tantrum, was going crazy over this idea of surrender. Surrender to me meant open up in vulnerability and you're going to get annihilated. When you grow up in violence, you don't put your fists down. You certainly keep your back to the wall and you're always watching the exits. You know, surrender sounded like, oh, just open up your fists, open up your hands, get your back away from the wall, just make yourself completely vulnerable. That's terrifying to the ego. It's terrifying to the ego. And we're constantly being called to do that. So can you hear how the denial is the separation? It's the separation of me from my own sonship. It's the separation of you from your own sonship when we hang out in the denial that keeps us from the stuff we're afraid to own and look at. So diversion, simply just ignore things, say it's not true, it didn't happen, disconnect, float around outside your body, intellectualize, use all, this can be blaming too, it's someone else's fault. But always looking outside of yourself. When you're being confronted by things that mean you have to look down deep or you have to change, that's really scary. Another one is my personal favorite, minimize. Minimize. You say it's not that bad. I said that about my drinking for years. It wasn't that bad. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm over 20. I'm paying for it myself. Leave me alone. Just justification about behavior that that you're being confronted with is not working anymore. I'm sure for a lot of the people in the storm areas, there's a whole lot of denial going on. I mean, certainly right now there is, because everybody's in shock and everything down there. But when you look at it from the outside looking in, you might be saying, you probably shouldn't build there anymore. I mean, who wants to hear that? That may not be a good place for you to live anymore, because that's the way things are working right now. So you can imagine the denial that's going down. We're going to fight this. We're going to fight these kind of storms. We're going to fight tornadoes. But I get where they're coming from. I understand. I get it. Everything in their world is being completely threatened. And when that happens, we don't want to go there. We don't want to look at it. The last one is called hostility. And we use these. Is this making sense? We use all these in combination too. Hostility. You tell me something I don't want to hear, and I tell you to F off. I want to push you away. I don't want the information you're giving me. Like, seriously, if we went down there and we said, you know, this is awful, we want to help you, but we can't help you build houses back in this spot again because this isn't working. I think they'd be really angry at us, right? They would hear us not helping or not being a part of, you know, what they need. I mean, you wouldn't go down there and do it. But I'm just using that as an example. When we get information that we don't want, we push it away. That's separation. That's separation. When Jesus went into the desert for the 40 days, he went inside. He connected to his fear. He looked at what was going on inside him. He didn't look out here. When Lisa does her 40-day program, she makes you watch your thoughts. She makes you look at you. But if you don't like what you're hearing or thinking inside, you want to get away from it. We have to learn how to trust that our feelings are just messages that are just telling us how we're experiencing something. They aren't the law. They're not right or wrong. They're just messages telling us what we're experiencing. And Bill Thetford wasn't willing at the time to go in and look. I think, this is my interpretation as a therapist, I think he didn't like his anger. I think the way I've read the books, and I could be way off base, I think that Helen could do anger and had a hard time with her vulnerability, and Bill could do vulnerability but couldn't do anger. And that was like, you know, so he would take his stuff and go bury with it. And we all have experiences of that. So surrender is when you look at something and you own it from here. You don't own it from here. So I'll use the 12 steps to explain that. For me, I think they're a great path. They're a great path here. So the first step is you accept you're powerless over something. If you think you have to have power over it, then and I think that sometimes we can get stuck in that when we think, I shouldn't think that. That's a bad thought. I shouldn't have it. That's not working. That's separating me from my light, or from, you know, when we can say to somebody, well, you're not a body. It doesn't matter. It doesn't count. Okay, then I shouldn't think about that. Well, that'll keep you up here in what's called simple denial, saying no, not happening. When there's a whole lot of stuff going on in here. All right? Anxiety is when, this is my interpretation of anxiety. Anxiety is when there's a truth that's surfacing and you're going, no, I don't want to see that. No, I don't want to see that. No, I don't want to see that, you know, and it gets stuck right here in your chest and you can hardly breathe with it. So quickly go to the doctor. They'll give you something to put that to sleep, all right? But you don't own what it is. You don't see what it is. There's a truth coming. If we are the light, we don't have to be afraid of what's inside. If we're not these bodies, we don't have to be afraid the messages that we're getting. It's faith that allows us to go inside and look and not run away. All right? Jesus gave us that example with 40 days in the desert. He sat with the stuff he didn't want to sit with. Because somewhere he knew there's more than this. There's more than what all this blah, blah, blah is that's going on inside of me. So in the steps, so the first step is you have to realize you're powerless. Basically, that's the ego that's powerless. All right? The you is the ego that's just having the big argument. The second one, that if I keep doing what I'm doing, my life is out of control and unmanageable. It's not working. Like, you have to take that look at yourself. Like, the way I'm doing it's not working. 3 is I have to surrender to something greater than myself. Well, that sunshine that I'm a part of, that light that I'm a part of, is something bigger than me. The me meaning the ego, because everything is so, in the self-referential, it's the ego that we're coming from. All right? But the ego can be faced head on. The ego, I believe, is not the enemy. I don't believe like ego's Satan. I believe ego is how we built the personality to try to survive things in this temporary reality that we're floating around in. And we're either love or fear. I don't have to be afraid of the ego, but I don't have to let it run the show. I have to appreciate that it was formed to try to help me survive and let it know there's a higher power. It's called my light. It's called my core. Does this make sense? So then the other steps are, I'm just do this really quickly, the 4th, 5th, and 6th step are that you do an inventory. It's like watching your thoughts with a hawk, like a hawk that Lisa talks about in the 40 days. If I'm going off course with your 40 days, tell me, Lisa. But no, you just start to look, what's going on? What am I thinking? How am I letting the ego run the show? How am I letting it tell me things that my gut doesn't really feel good about? See, anxiety is your gut is telling you, nah, that's not a fit. That's not okay. Yeah, but what will people think if I change? What will people think? How I'll let people down. I might have to quit my job. I might have to leave my marriage. I might have to get married. I might have to do something that people aren't expecting me to do. I won't know how to do this. I won't know how to do this because this isn't familiar. We fight for familiar more than we fight for anything. We fight for familiar because it's the comfort zone we know. I know how to be crazy that way. I don't know how to do this. That just looks so strange and different. And I think that's a part of the big difficulty when you come into something like the Course in Miracles and doing the lessons, is it's telling you, you give everything meaning. What? Are you serious? I give everything meaning? You know? I mean, like it's like, what? It's so hard for us. You know how everybody says, well, everybody, I exaggerate. You know how when you're talking to people who have first started the course and they'll go, boy, I listened to the lesson in the morning. I read it. I'm supposed to say it to myself, every half hour, every hour. I can't remember it 20 minutes later, right? I can't remember what the heck the lesson was. So you get an app and it keeps reminding you what the lesson was. Then you forget to listen to the app, right? It's like you can't, what lesson was that? What were we doing? That's called simple denial. Because it's going to cause you to change how you're doing things. And everything inside of us goes, no. What? Who knows what? I might have to move. I might have to change my job. I might have to shut my mouth, I might have to do something different. But we don't. We want to push it away. You can tell if you're in denial when you're doing like this. Or you're going blank, right? What Bill Thetford was doing was depressing what he was feeling. Probably fear. I would guess there was some anger that he had with Helen because they were not knocking heads together. And what did Jesus say to him? Oh, please don't let me lose the place. I probably did. Huh? 22, I think. Yep. He is in a very deep sleep and much more resistant to waking than you are. The major problem with him is that his is a passive resistance. That's what depression looks like. It's not that anger that goes, I don't want to do this, I don't want to change. It's like, okay, whatever. The language of depression is, whatever, it's okay. I'm just going to get under my blankie because I'm way too tired. I don't have any energy. I don't even have an appetite. Who cares? I'm not a body anyway. Let me just go. This is very, very seductive. This is very, very seductive. I won't make any noise. I'll just be kind of invisible. Maybe if I don't wake up tomorrow to be okay anyway. It's a real, like the air going out of the balloon. But it's definitely not listening to this, because the life force has movement. The life force has vibration. This is God expressing as us. As us. What is yours to bring here, Nancy, to the planet? What is yours to give us, Lisa? Oh, you heard about a 40-day course? That came out of here. You didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to do a 40-day course, and people in 5 years are going to be looking at it all over the world. Something just said, go write this. Go explore this. But you don't hear that if you have the lid on and you have the handbrake on, which is why we have to sit and allow whatever's going on to come through. So you do the inventory and then you speak it to someone else. You share it with somebody safe. And maybe some of this is stuff that you don't like about yourself or stuff that you think that you're holding. Shame is a great way to keep the lid on everything. You have to bring stuff into the light with somebody safe, not just the guy in the corner at the coffee shop. But when you start to bring that out, you realize I am not, how do you say it? Toxic shame says, it's not that it says I did something wrong, it says I am something wrong, okay? None of us am something wrong. We're all here on purpose. We are pure light on purpose. It's the ego that will convince us that we're less than, not good enough, hold us back, keep us down, make us small. And it's like we're all flowers in this magnificent garden here in this life force. And each one of us brings the color that we're supposed to bring. Each one of us brings the aroma we're supposed to bring. Each one of us comes in the season we're supposed to be here. But we don't show up when we have this lid on that keeps us locked up in this dark, dark place that doesn't allow us. Well, let me act like Michael because everybody likes him, so I won't be me. I'll pretend to be him. Or I'll wish I was him. Or I'd like to be smart like Nancy. Or out in front of everybody and successful like Lisa. I'll be something else. Let me tell you, your answer is right here. You don't need to be anything else but clear with yourself. Oh, and guess what happens when you do this? This is called union. You know how we're supposed to have compassion for the sonship? That's how you get connected. You start with you. Thank you, ego, for all that you tried to do. We're done now. You're going to have to move along. I'll send appreciation to you, and as I do, you will dissipate. Okay? And I'm going to come back here with not that I am something wrong. Maybe I did some things that didn't work well for me. Maybe they were mistakes in my thinking about how things are. So that's what all this inventory and sharing's about. And then you become willing to change. That's what the sixth one is. 7th and 8th, 9th, you make amends wherever you need to make amends. That means you show up with vulnerability. You make amends to yourself. You own the ways in which you let yourself down or the ways in which you played a game that wasn't working for you. You make amends to others. And then 10, 11, and 12 you look at yourself on a nightly basis and you say, okay, where was the ego running the show? What can I let go of? Because whenever the ego's running the show, trust me, it's not working. Your life is not working to the optimum that it can be working when you're listening to your core. And learning to listen to your core, to the light that you are, that takes practice. We get taught from the moment we arrive here in this temporary illusion, we get taught from the moment we arrive here to please others. They're the ones that are feeding you. They're the ones that are, giving you a roof over your head. What makes you happy? What makes you happy? What makes you happy? We get the rules everywhere we go on this planet. The rules from the churches, the rules from the schools, the rules from the jobs, the rules from the Bible, the rules from the government, the rules from the DMV, the rules from the IRS. Everybody's given us the rules. The military, they're all giving us the rules. So obviously we have to get along in this. I'm not telling you not to pay your taxes, but asking you for your values and your beliefs need to come from your core, from the core that you are. That's the light. And lots of time it takes courage to do that. It takes courage for Bill and Lisa to put themselves in front of the world and say, oh, guess what? We have teachers of God and we want you to all come play with us. And we don't have a dime to do this, but we're going to make it happen. And you just go out and walk in it. That takes a lot of courage, but they were listening to their truth. And you all have that truth inside of you. Right? Take a breath. Breath is how you connect. And with compassion is how you connect to this light.
Can you mention 12?
Yes. The 11th step, I'm going to 12. So the 11th step is prayer and meditation. It's when that's what they want you to do. They want you to pay attention to yourself, to listen. The 12 steps came from all the greatest religions. And the 12th is to reach out to others. And it's not about being a codependent and taking care of everybody else and losing yourself. It's about showing up from your light, showing up from what is you, from your core. Take a breath. Okay. So right now, I know for you at home, unless you're with someone, and I think that'd be a great idea to meet up with people and have watch parties, you can use a pen and paper, but for all of you, I'd like you to meet with a partner, pick anybody in the room, they're all perfect, and tell them anything about what I said that you can relate to. Ready, set, go. How any of it spoke to you. And what you do at home is you journal to yourself, have a conversation with yourself. You can even look in a mirror and talk to yourself. I'm going to give you about 3 or 4 minutes. Do you need somebody to talk to? Are there any questions? Oh, really? It's making sense? Okay. Oh, good. Okay. What time do I have to stop?
11:45.
Okay. Good. Oh, good. Oh, good. Great. Love what? The way you express your message. Oh, nice. Vitamin for the mind. Oh, good. Thank you. Okay, make sure you both have had a chance to share, right? And come on back. Come on back. Is anybody comfortable with sharing up here for like a minute? Like just anything you want to share about what you heard or what you experienced or what you talked to your partner about? Okay, Laura. So you need a microphone.
So what me and Nancy talked about was, I love her. She's total opposite personality of me, very quiet and calm. And I'm like, me and you, boom, here I am. And I was telling her, I could see such a change in her from last year when she was here, and you could see where she was coming from. I don't know that any of this could be true. And now she comes from that light. I see it all the time. I was just telling her that. And it almost made her cry because she still doesn't believe that she is so powerful. She goes, yeah, but I can't imagine getting up there like you when you taught. And, you're just right out there. And I wish I had your confidence. And Irene was saying, I wish I was this person, that person. I said, but when I taught that time about the 12 steps and stuff like you are, it hit a lot of people. But I said, you have this confident calmness that also is going to hit people that are on the other end watching this across the world saying, I'm not out there like this person, so what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you.
So I'm not a chrysanthemum. I'm a tulip. Yeah. I'm a rose. I'm a daisy, and we're all perfect flowers.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so when I teach or coach people through their writing projects, and the most important thing that I give people, because I believe in it so strongly, is to hold on to their voice. Okay? Editing, anybody can do the editing and tell you the punctuation and the spelling and whatever, but nobody on the planet can bring your voice. That's the light you came with, your voice. And Laura has her voice, and I have my voice, and that's the most important thing. You can write, you can express, you can work with, you can be. And when we realize that, the whole world flipping lights up with ta-da.
Yeah.
And we have an opening the 4th Friday of the month online.
So that's where you will practice. Great. Did you just sign her up?
I think she's it.
Hallelujah.
Yay, we'll support you.
Okay. What does denial say?
You mean the ego? Same thing. Oh boy. What's up with that? Right.
Great.
That's all good. It's growing, and it's acceptance and surrender.
Yes. And surrender is very, very different than collapse. Collapse is, oh, it's not my personality. No, I was born different. I'm not like that. I can't. You can feel collapse. Okay? So when you're saying whatever, just know you don't have a voice. Somebody asks you where you want to go for lunch, and you go, whatever. Do you want to do that? Whatever. Okay? That's not a no, and it's not a yes. That's called collapse. Start finding your voice with little things. Where do you want to go for lunch? Okay? And if you don't know, figure it out. Start coming home to yourself. And it's not about going out in the world and being a jerk. It's about being authentic. But this is where the sonship connects, because that's the beginning of the separation. If I can't connect with me, I sure can't connect with you. And our job here is to connect and to remember that we are the sunlight. Anybody else want to share? Yes, Peter.
What I could really relate to is when you spoke about the terror, the fear when you gave up alcohol. And my defense was intellectualizing.
There you go. You got that one.
And it's been that way all along. And when I finally came to a point, a circumstance, let's say, where I absolutely had to admit it was not working, and I had to accept that it wasn't my ego mind that was going to figure this out, then all this fear came up.
Yeah.
Wow, I'll be out of control. I don't know how this works. I can't handle it. Somebody help me, whatever. And I felt like I was blindsided by that.
Yep.
But that was necessary. It was necessary
For the connection.
to begin reconnecting. Yeah.
Yes. Reconnecting.
and
Good word.
for the transformation.
Yes.
I feel like I've moved through multiple steps beyond that now, but boy, that was powerful.
Good for you for the recognition. And I will bet you money that there are tons of people online who can relate to that. Who absolutely, and in this room, who can relate to that. Absolutely. I want you to know that healing looks like this. That kind of healing you're talking about, Peter, looks like this. Okay? We want it. The ego wants healing to be a straight line. Like, okay, read that book. Okay, had that conversation. Okay, did that. That's not organic. That's not how it goes. So in this circle, okay, might be all the issues of letting go of control or whatever, and you've done it in the past in other situations, so that might be right here, but today you're doing it at a much, much deeper knowing place. There's more wisdom in it. It's more visceral for you now, and it's always moving forward into wholeness and light, because it's about the reconnection to the light that you are. Just one more thing, Dave. The amount of control we want is very equal to the amount of fear we have. You want control, you've got fear. Just have a note. They're equally related. Dave, you wanted to say something? Wait a minute. Bill's going to give you the mic.
I was just going to say another trick of the ego that I have experienced is that sometimes we're further along this healing path than we even know. Oh, because I'm so handsome.
Yes.
My new glasses. We're further along, at least this has been my experience, than we think we are. When we hit a glitch or something, our ego will tell us, you haven't learned anything. You're back at square one.
Right.
No, you're not back at square one. It's a glitch. I think part of the healing is to right size the stuff that happens in our life and not let us overtake us and tell us that we're back to nothing and have learned nothing.
And that's good use of the will. That's good
Right.
use of the will. We can use our will to find compassion for ourselves. We can use our will to right size that stuff. Okay? We can use our will to remind ourselves, that's not who I am today. I'm safe today. I'm okay today. Jesus is the middleman. Jesus is the middleman.
Christ. Yeah, I just want to say to Peter, because, and I hope you don't mind saying it out loud, but I've known you for a while from church. And I just love our hugs that we have. And there was a time when that just wasn't possible. And it's just special. That's all.
Oh, good. Good. All right, one more. We got time for one more.
Maggie's got.
Oh, Maggie. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hand up over there.
Over here? Were you, Shirley? No. Okay, go ahead. I didn't see it, Mike. Go ahead.
Okay, that's all right. So I have a question. I find, and I'm wondering if I'm fooling myself, okay? I find I spend a lot of time on my own, and I like my own company, and even if I'm going out, I don't need the other person. And I'm like, and then it's like, okay, I'm missing community, and so I'll go somewhere. And I'm wondering, I feel very at peace that way, but I'm wondering if I'm fooling myself on the reality.
Well, does it feel like you should want to be with more people? Or does
Yes, it has a should with it.
Well, whenever you're using should, you're in a toxic conversation. Should comes from the ego. If you're comfortable, you're comfortable. You're the best judge, and nobody's the boss of you anymore. You're retired, right?
Yes.
So you're the best judge. You're the best judge of how you want to spend your time. Your light knows what you need. Should tells you you're in a toxic conversation.
So that's, yes, I'm like saying, well, I missed group, but I feel good. I didn't need to go or something like that.
Or I even didn't want to go.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Great. Somebody else? You wanted to speak? Yeah. We got like 30 seconds, honey.
So, synchronicity is great. Yesterday I was with Henry and he's like, the 12-step program, that's a really good program. I think we were talking about addiction. And then I go to the library today and it says, I got this book I couldn't put down. Outspoken, Why Women's Voices Get Silenced and How to Set Them Free. So I don't read that much. But I was with Shirley and she's so conscious, a bit, like she'd done the 12 steps. She just said that, and I can feel it, the light is there, and she came and sat next to me, and so I got the light, and my daughter is my challenge. Going to school was a big issue about these notebooks, these 4 notebooks she had to have. She was not going to go first day of school because of that, and I'm like trying to talk to her from my head. Like this. But then, I listened to her and then, I called a friend and, I got more people and eventually she changed and it wasn't because of me. It was just me going along with it, not having to fix it, the intellectualizing. Mm-hmm. So that's mine.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, honey. Give it to Bill. Okay, so I really appreciate you all showing up as the light that you are. So I just want to sing this little song for you that I absolutely love. Oh, Bill, yes.
No, we have 3 minutes.
Oh, we have 3 minutes. Oh, let's have a party. So the song that I want to sing to you is when you hear the you, remember you're involved in the you, okay? The greatest thing I'll ever do is knowing you. The greatest thing I'll ever do is knowing you. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. The greatest thing I'll ever do is knowing you. The greatest thing I'll ever do is loving you. The greatest thing I'll ever do is loving you. I want to love you more. I want to love you more. The greatest thing I'll ever do is loving you. The greatest thing I'll ever do is serving you. The greatest thing I'll ever do is serving you. I want to serve you more. I want to serve you more. The greatest thing I'll ever do is serving you. Your light is what matters and what counts. That's what you and I have to offer the planet, the light that we are. That's what you owe the sonship. When you connect with you, you connect with us all. So I'm done. Namaste.